Today's class is Introduction to Rachel and Leah. We talked a little bit about this last year, Parshas Vayechi. We'll repeat some points, but you'll see some new points too. So Rachel and Leah are two personalities who are going to be with us for the next couple of Parshios, and their sons are going to be with us even longer. So let's talk about them, who they are, how they differ. There's cooperation and rivalry between them. Let's talk about the relationship. And we'll begin. You have the sheet with Rachel and Leah, the title over there. That's what we'll start with. Okay. Ulavan, this week's parsha, it says, Ulavan shtei banos. Lavan had two daughters. Shem hagdolo Leah, the Shem haktana Rachel. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger one was Rachel. Ve'enei Leah rakos. Leah's eyes were worn out. Rachel haisi yafas Torah v'yafas mara. And Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. Vayahav Yaakov es Rachel. Yaakov loved Rachel. Vayomer, and he said to Lavan, Evadcho sheva shanim b'Rachel bitcho haketana. I'm going to work for you for 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. Here is how we are introduced to Rachel and Leah. Interesting introduction. Imagine lahavdil. You're reading a novel, right? And early in the novel, two of the characters are being introduced. And it would say, woman number one was a raving beauty, all right? Yeah, all right, that sets the scene. Alrighty, that tells you something about her, something about the way people relate to her. And woman number two, something wrong with her eyes. Well, all right, but who is she, right? That tells me something about one particular feature, physical feature of hers. But is that the whole introduction? That's all I need to know. And now the story progresses. Now you know something about woman number two? Not really, right? And here, look at how the Torah introduces Rachel and Leah. Rachel was beautiful. All right. That says something about her. You know her a little bit already, right? You can go on, get to know her better. And Leah had worn out eyes. What kind of person was she? Who was she? So she had worn out eyes. I mean, so what? Funny introduction. That's all you get. And the story proceeds. Okay, and another thing. Yaakov loved Rachel. And he said to Lavan, I'm going to work for you. I want to marry Rachel. You look at these psukim, and the impression the Torah gives you is that Yaakov, it says, Rachel was beautiful of form, beautiful of appearance, and Yaakov loved Rachel. That's it. You know, he fell for her because she was gorgeous. Is that it? Is that why a serious person marries somebody? That's all the Torah gives you. Is that the foundation of Klal Yisrael? All right. So, to answer these questions, let us look at Rashi's comment on this pasuk. Rakos. Leah's eyes were worn out. Shahaisa, they were tender, I guess is a better translation. Her eyes were tender. Shahaisa sevura la'alos begoralo shel Esav. She was under the impression that she was going to wind up in Esav's lot, being his wife. Ubachsa, and she cried. Shahayu akol omrim shnei banim l'Rivka u'shtei banos Lavan. Rivka has 2 sons, and Lavan, her brother, has 2 daughters. Hagdola legadol v'aktana lekatan. The older one should marry the older daughter should marry the older son, and the younger daughter should marry the younger son. Okay, this tells you a little bit more about Leah. All right, why were Leah's eyes tender? Because she cried a lot. And why did she cry a lot? Because people were saying she was going to wind up marrying Esav. And that prospect was something that depressed her. It made her sad, so she cried. All right, that tells us a little bit more about Leah. But the Herczeg Cohen says, it's not just tells you a little bit more about Leah. This is the essence of Leah's personality. This little two-line Rashi here tells you who Leah was. What was Leah hearing? You look at the Rashi, you think, oy vey, I'm going to be married to this guy. It's going to be, 50 years of Gehenna. He's going to beat me. I don't know what he's going to do, right? What kind of husband is this going to be? Life with him is going to be miserable. Herczeg says there's more to it than that. Much more to it than that. She was hearing people say, the oldest daughter sounds like a good shidduch for the oldest son. And she was thinking, why are people saying that? It's not, what was the age difference between Rachel and Leah? I think I saw somewhere they were twins. I mean, there wasn't a significant age difference between them. And Esav wanted Rachel. It wasn't, it's not that the ages were, clearly Leah, she's 10 years older and Esav's 10 years. I mean, Esav and Yaakov were twins. Who cares about the age difference? The older one, the younger one. It's insignificant. They're all the same age, right? What were people saying? It's not just that the age makes them compatible. Leah realized, people knew who Esav was. Esav was no tzaddik. Esav had a reputation. And people realized, she overheard people saying, this Leah, she's a good shidduch for Esav. And Leah's thinking, that's true. If people look at me at the wrong moment, if people look at me at my moments of weakness, freeze the frame right there. If you don't know me over the long term, you just look at my bad moments, people could reasonably arrive at the conclusion that I'm really a good shidduch for Esav. I'm the kind of woman that this Russia needs, right? And that killed her. She said, people think that I'm that kind of woman? And I give people reason to draw that conclusion? That hurt her very much. Her tears weren't just tears about, I'm not going to attain marital fulfillment. No. That wasn't what her tears were about. Her tears were, I am really not what I should be. I'm the kind of person who, in her off moments, really is the kind of woman that Esav would be a good match for. Her tears were tears of teshuvah. She regretted her weaknesses. But now look at her sister. How does the Torah describe her sister? Yefas Torah v'yefas Mara. Beautiful of form, beautiful of appearance. All right. Ein mikra yotzei midei pshuto. We don't have to deny that the Torah is telling us here that Rachel is physically attractive. But that's not all it's telling us. It's telling us that Rachel was beautiful in every respect. She led a beautiful life. You looked at her, any situation she was in, you look at the way she reacts to it, and you think, this woman knows how to live. She knows what life is all about. She makes the right choices all the time. She lives beautifully. She's not like her sister. Her sister, Leah Imenu, she's the founder of Am Yisrael, but Leah Imenu had her moments of weakness. She did the wrong thing sometimes. Sometimes you look at her, she looks ugly, right? But not Rachel. Rachel's always beautiful. And Yaakov Avinu was here in his house with his uncle and his cousins, and he sees these two sisters, and he sees them in day-to-day situations, and he looks at this Rachel, and he says she's amazing. She's perfect. Her life is beautiful. This is the kind of woman I'm going to marry, and this is the kind of woman who is appropriate to be the founder, the mother, the ancestor of Hashem's nation. Okay? But, remember, Leah So here we have two archetypes over here. Leah and Rachel. Leah is the Balas Teshuvah, and Rachel is the Tzadikah Gemurah. These are the two prototypical Jews. You're either one or the other if you're leading a successful life. Okay? There are two paths to Avodas Hashem, and there are a lot of ramifications. We'll begin today with how they view life differently and how the nature of their avoda is different. Let's look at the second source I have here on this sheet. It's from the Sefer Kol Simcha, which is a collection of Divrei Torah by Reb Simcha Bunim of Peshischa, who was the Rebbe of Rabbi Nachum Mendel of Kotsk. So let's just read this piece of Kol Simcha on this week's Parsha. Vayar Hashem ki sanu Leah. All right, where is that pasuk? That pasuk I think is in Shlishi, and that's after Rachel and Leah get married to Yaakov. Let me just find the pasuk here. I'll get there in a second. Vayar Hashem ki sanu Leah. Hashem saw that Leah was hated. Vayiftach es rachma, and he opened her womb. Rachel akara, and Rachel was barren. And this is, and the next pasuk is Leah gave birth to Reuven. So now let's see what the Kol Simcha says. Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. Chas v'shalom lomar kain shehat tzadik sonei es ishto. God forbid to say that the tzaddik hated his wife. A person does not stay in a marriage where he hates his wife. Either you fix things up, or you leave. But it's just an unhealthy situation to remain married to a woman whom you hate. However, so what does it mean? Here it looks like Leah was hated. It stands to reason she was hated by her husband. Right? However, Nefaresh, we will explain, Dehinei hatzadik asher oved Hashem Yisborach hu tamid sonei es atzmo. A tzaddik who is serving Hashem always hates himself. Let me explain that in a minute. Don't take that real strictly. V'hu motzei ba'atzmo tamid chesronos, and he always finds deficiencies in himself. She'eino yotzei yedei chovas ha'avoda l'Hashem Yisborach. That he's not fulfilling his obligation of service to Hashem. This is the idea that Hashem saw that Leah was hated. Pirush, that means Leah was hated by herself. I'm translating it hate. It's too strong a term for the concept that he's telling us. But the idea is the following. It doesn't mean Yaakov hated Leah. Right? If he really would have hated her, he would have divorced her. Okay? What it means is that Leah was never satisfied with herself. All right? You know, he says the tzaddik always hates himself. You can't take that strictly. I mean, that's neurotic. That's not healthy to hate yourself. Right? It's just, he means there's a certain aspect of yourself that any righteous person is dissatisfied with. You can never say, oh, I'm okay. I really don't have, I'll just keep on doing things the way I've been doing them and Hashem's happy with me. No, that's the wrong attitude. You always have to have an element of dissatisfaction. You can say, well, basically, I found the right path in life, right? But I'm still doing something wrong. Right? There always has to be this part about yourself you're asking, why can't I do this better? Right? It's in your grasp and you're still not doing it, and you're dissatisfied with yourself in some specific respects. That is what Hashem saw about Leah. The same idea we said before in the name of Reb Tzadok. And it's no coincidence. Reb Simcha Bunim was the Rebbe of the Kotzker Rebbe. The Kotzker Rebbe was the Rebbe of the Mei HaShiloach, and the Mei HaShiloach was the Rebbe of Herczeg. You have these themes that reappear in this line throughout the generations. Okay? So you have the same idea. Leah, she was characterized by dissatisfaction with herself and the desire to improve herself. Okay, not just dissatisfaction with myself. It's worthless. It's hopeless. I'm falling into despair. I'm just going to lay in bed and not get out of bed anymore. No. That wasn't Leah. She's dissatisfaction. Now I got to do something about it. Next source, Mei HaShiloach, right? Reb Tzadok's Rebbe, the student of the Kotzker Rebbe. So this pasuk we read before. Shem HaGedola Leah, v'Shem HaKtana Rochel. The name of the eldest was Leah, and the name of the younger one was Rachel. So, what do these names tell us? Shem Rachel More She'ochezes Kina V'Nitzachon B'Libo. The name Rachel indicates that she holds jealousy and the desire to be triumphant in her heart. Ve'ena motziyah bisfaseha. She doesn't express it through her lips. Kamo shekasuv, as the pasuk in Yeshaya says, Uchrachel lifnei gozazeha ne'eloma. Like a sheep before those who shear it, she remains silent. So it characterizes a sheep, and what characterizes Rachel in this by having this name, which means sheep, is her silence, her restraint, her not expressing her negative emotions. But her jealousy, it was l'shem shemayim. It wasn't just a personal desire. Rachel was jealous of her sister because her sister had children and was accomplishing something in this life, and she wasn't. It wasn't like she just wanted honor or whatever. She wanted the right things, but even though she felt this jealousy, she remained silent like a sheep. V'shem Leah, he lashon nil'ah. And the name Leah means nil'ah, worn out. Shehaisa tamid nil'ah utzmeya liyeshuos Hashem Yisborach. She was always worn out and thirsting for the salvation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here we have, in a nutshell, the relationship between Rachel and Leah and the relationship between their children throughout the ages. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges descendants of Leah by a different standard than he judges descendants of Rachel. You find in Tanakh, I can't quote the pasuk offhand, you have that Ephraim, that's the main son of Yosef, Yosef the main son of Rachel, is jealous of Yehuda. You find here Rachel is jealous of Leah. What's at the root of this jealousy? HaKadosh Baruch Hu treats the children of Leah, the tribe of Yehuda, by a different standard than he treats Rachel and than he treats her children from the tribe of Yosef, Ephraim, and Manasseh. With a tzaddik gomer, with somebody who's capable of perfection, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very strict. Look at Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech made one mistake. Right? He didn't wait for Shmuel. You're fired. Okay? You make one mistake, you're fired. David HaMelech. Oh, how many mistakes did he make? One after the other. Right? You can count several Averis that seem much more serious than what Shaul did. And he keeps getting a second chance. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, yes, I have different standards. If you people who are capable of perfection, I demand perfection. You people who have your moments of weakness, I recognize that. What I demand is, do tshuva. Rectify your mistakes. That's what I'm waiting for. But I'll give you more chances than I'll give Shaul, descendant of Rachel. And this is the nature of the jealousy. The children of Yosef see this. They see, hey, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is easier on him than he is on me. And here Rachel had some kind of, Rachel, he doesn't elaborate, but I can see the same thing happening. Yeah, my sister Leah, she's a good sister, but I know, I can think of times when she hasn't been as good as me. And look, she gets kids, what about me, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is stricter with the Rachels of the world than he is with the Leahs of the world. Okay? But their godless is, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Yeah, I feel bad about it. I'm not going to complain. It's Hashem. You know, this is the way he wants it. Not a word from me. I accept. Okay? That's Rachel. She's the sheep. Silent. No complaints. No kvetching. Okay? Leah, her name means she's worn out. And the way we've been describing her life is a constant struggle. If you're a Leah, if you really mean well, and you keep slipping up, you have no rest. You have no rest. Right? That's Leah. She's worn out. Kadosh Baruch Hu, help me. I can't do this on my own. Right? I know what's right. It's just so hard for me. Right? That's her life. That's the life of Baalei Tshuva. That's the life of people who face up to their deficiencies and try to work on them. It's an amazingly hard task. It's a never-ending task. You get tired. You get worn out. But you don't give up. Next. Another dimension of Leah. Okay, so this is already next week's parsha. Vateitze Dina bas Leah liros bivnos haaretz. Right? Yaakov returns with his family to Eretz Yisrael. So Dinah, the daughter of Leah, went to see what the other girls in the land were like, and to maybe get to know them. Fine. So Rashi asked the question, V'lo bas Yaakov, why is she described as the daughter of Leah? Isn't she Yaakov's daughter too? And in general, when you talk about your ancestry, you go by the father's line. And here, Davka bas Leah. Al Shem Yitziasa Ella, Al Shem Yitziasa bas Leah. But because she's going out, she's described as Leah's daughter. Sha'af hi Yatzanis Oisa. She too, Yatzanis is one who goes out. She was too outgoing, let's say. Shenemar Vateitze Leah Likraso. Leah went out to greet him. This is when Leah buys the rights to spend the night with Yaakov by giving the flowers to her sister Rachel. So Leah went out and told Yaakov, she went out to greet him. And the Torah is critical here, right? Because this going out gets Dinah into trouble. She's called the daughter of Leah because she is expressing a characteristic that she inherited from her mother Leah. Yatsonis. A little bit too outgoing. Okay, this gives us another insight into the different natures of Leah and Rachel. Why is it that Leah has trouble in her life? She slips sometimes, and Rachel's in control. Right? Why is that? Well, they have a different nature. There are people who are introverts and people who are extroverts. That doesn't mean shy versus outgoing. No. Extroverts are people who are drawn to that which is outside them. There are people who, when they're by themselves, they're bored. They need company. You're really alive when you're with somebody else. Right? There are people, that's their nature. They're attracted to things outside of them. That's what really makes them alive, makes them alert, brings out their full personality. They're outgoing people in that respect. That was Leah's nature. Now, if you're that kind of person, well, the pluses are, if you have the correct inclination, it makes you a very nice person. It makes you a person who can help other people. I'm comfortable in a crowd. I empathize. I feel with other people. I'm alive with other people. And I like other people. I'm going to go help them. I'm not just one of these guys who sticks in his corner and, yeah, I won't bother you. You don't bother me. Right? All right. Those people are okay too. They're part of the world. But not much chesed is going to get done by people like that. An outgoing person, the person who cares, who, those are the people who help other people. That's the plus side. The negative side is you want to relate to everybody. You want to do everything, right? And there are things that are just off limits. And you get in trouble when you cross the lines that you shouldn't. Okay? That is Leah's strength and weakness. Okay? Rachel, on the other hand, she's quiet. She's restrained. She's the person who's in control. I can be myself. I can be in a crowd with 100 people. It doesn't really matter. The outside world, I'm autonomous. I do what comes from inside me. What happens outside of me, it can even be a distraction. It's not that important. She's an introvert, right? So, the plus side is self-control, self-discipline. You can be Yafas Torah, Yafas Mara. All those great attractions out there, I can ignore them. I don't need them. I'm whole, me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's all that we need, right? On the other hand, you tend to be a little bit aloof sometimes. You might ignore people when you should be noticing them, right? So it's a trade-off, right? Two drachim in avoda. Let's go on. The next source, back to this week's parsha. Vatahar od. Leah conceived again. This is the fourth time, really. We're skipping a lot of psukim here. Vateled ben, and she gave birth to a son. Vatomer, and she said, Hapam odeh es Hashem. This time I will give thanks to Hashem. Al kain kar'a shemo Yehudah. That's why she called his name Yehudah. V'ta'amod miles. And then she stopped giving birth. Okay, this time she thanks God. Look at Rashi. Hapam odeh, this time I will thank, shenotalti yoser mechalki, because I took more than my portion. Me'ato yesh li lahodos. Now, it's my obligation to give thanks. Okay? So the simple pshat in Rashi is that Leah was aware that there were going to be 12 tribes, and Leah knew, everybody knew, that there were 4 wives. 12 tribes divided by 4 wives is 3 tribes per wife. And here, she's gotten her 4th son. She got more than her portion. That, for sure, you have to give thanks. And more than you deserve, more than coming to you. Okay. That's simple pshat. I'll darshan Rashi now. The great Baal Teshuvah out of all of Leah's children is Yehudah. Right? He messed up with Tamar, and he had the courage to say, Tzadka Mimeni, she's in the right, I'm in the wrong. Right? He faced up to his deficiencies. And it's no coincidence that the great Baal Teshuvah of all time, David HaMelech, is a direct descendant of Leah and Yehudah. All right. So here, she gave birth to this Yehudah. This Yehudah was going to do tshuva, and odeh, vidui, right? Same word, right? She saw that this Yehudah was going to be the great Baal Teshuvah. And what happens when you do Teshuvah properly? We spoke about this last week. If a person sins and then does Teshuvah, he's in a higher place than a person who's never sinned at all. Okay? So, we enter this world, we're bound by the mitzvahs of the Torah, and as we said last week, you don't play games. You're bound by the mitzvahs of the Torah, you're supposed to keep them, right? You're supposed to be like Rachel. You be a Yafas Torah, Yafas Mara. That is the ideal for every Jew, right? You do that, you get a certain portion. Now let's say you messed up. Well, then plan B applies. You mess up, then you do Teshuvah. If you succeed, you really are better off than you were in the first place. If you never would have messed up, you're getting more than your portion. You were supposed to get where the Tzaddik Gomor gets. Things worked out, you're even better off. You're getting more than your allotted portion. That's what she said about Yehuda. Now I'm going to thank Hashem, and thanking Vidu Tshuva, same, right? I'm going to thank Hashem. I'm getting a whole new dimension of life is opened up now. Okay? Now, if it's Drash and Rashi, I'll say that it's almost Pshat in Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel. Maybe it is Pshat. Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel is one of the Baalei Tosfos, and we have his commentary on Chumash. So let's read here. Odeh es Hashem. Leah says, now I'm going to give thanks to Hashem. Mashal Yisrael shenasan truma lekohen. We can compare this to Yisrael, who gave truma to a kohen. Lo hoda lo. The kohen didn't thank him. The kohen says, yeah, I deserve that. You didn't do me any favors. You've got to give truma. Meiser. He gave him meiser v'lo hoda lo. He didn't thank him. Well, I'm not sure why the kohen thinks he should be getting meiser, but okay. Chulin. Now, Yisrael gave him a plain old gift, just normal food. V'hoda lo. Then the kohen said, thank you. This is just a pure gift. You're under absolutely no obligation. Kach Leah. So it was with Leah. Mitchila, at first, Kishahayula Shlosha Vanim, when she had 3 sons, lo, that should be Nasno, Hodah. She didn't give thanks. Kizeh Hayachalka, because that was her portion, that was coming to her, at least in her eyes. Lefi Shahayu Arba Imahos, Leyud Beis Shvatim, because there were 4 mothers for 12 tribes. That comes to 3 tribes per mother. Okay, as we said in Rashi. But now, when she had a 4th son, she got more than her expected portion. Then she gave thanks. If Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel would have stopped there, I would have said, he's saying the same thing Rashi says, just a lot clearer, right? But he goes on. Lefisha yotzos bezos hapam Yehuda, because this time Yehuda emerged. Shahoda, who confessed, velo bosh, and he wasn't ashamed to confess, b'masa Tamar, at the incident of Tamar, she'amar tzodko mimeni, because he said, she's more righteous than I. Now I ask you, if Yehuda wouldn't have done that, would Leah still have had more than her share of sons, mathematically?
Yeah.
Yes. But after making that point, Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel didn't stop. She gave thanks because this 4th son is going to be the son who is going to say vidui publicly. Why do you have to add that for? Even if no matter what he did, she's gotten 4 when she's only expecting 3. You see that, according to him, this yoter michalki entails tshuva. She saw that Yehuda, yeah, he's number 4, he's more than is coming to me, but that represents an idea that I get a bigger share of life through him than the share that I could expect. Okay, let's go on. Another commentary of one of the Baalei Tosfos on Chumash. This anthology is called Mushav Zakanim. Ve'im Tomar. Uma roasa shahodasa Yehuda Yoser Mishar should be baneha. Okay, and I have the brackets flipped around. Don't let that throw you. What here he asks the same question that Rashi and Rabbeinu Chaim Paltiel ask, but he answers it differently. How come she gave thanks by Yehuda more than for her other children? V'yesh lomar, we can answer. Because she saw the 4 Rishonim who are destined to emerge from her first 3 sons. May Ruvain, Dasan, Va'abiram. Ruvain's going to have these big Rishonim, Dasan, Va'abiram emerge. Mishimon Zimri ben Saul, Zimri, who got us into trouble by until Pinchas killed him. And Milevi Korach. Right, so you have these tremendous Rishonim who are going to descend from her first 3 sons. Yolda Yehuda, she gave birth to Yehuda. Rasa Shahoda b'masa Tamar, she saw that he confessed at the incident of Tamar. Hodasa gamhi, so she also gave thanks. Kach nedrash b'tanchuma, that's what Medrash Tanchuma says. V'chein piresh Rash, I don't know who that is, Parshas Vayechi. Maybe it means Rashi, I don't know.
I've seen in commentaries where it quotes Rashi and the Rosh and the
Yeah, okay, so whatever. So there's two sources for what he just quoted. Now, he asks, but this answer to the question, why is it Davka after Yehuda that Leah gives thanks, is difficult. But there are kings, Achaz, Amots, and others who descended from Yehuda. You read through the book of Malachim that talks about the dynasty that came from David HaMelech. They're not all big tzaddikim. Oh, thank God there were tzaddikim too. But you had tremendous Rishoyim there. He just mentions two of them. You had King Menashe who brought an idol into the Beis HaMikdash. There are no shortage of Rishoyim from the tribe of Yehuda. So, okay, Reuven had Dasan Vavira. That's not like his whole tribe was evil, right? He had some Rishoyim. No, Yehuda had some Rishoyim, true, too. So what makes Yehuda better than the other three, right? Why does she give thanks by Yehuda and not by Shimon? Because Shimon had Zimri, right? According to what we're saying, you know what the Medrash Tanchuma meant? Look at how it starts. It says, she gave birth to Yehuda. She saw that he was going to say vidui, to confess, by the incident of Tamar, so she confessed too. She gave thanks too. The point isn't, of course she saw that Yehuda was going to have some bad descendants, right? But the main thing she saw was, Yehuda is going to do teshuvah properly. He's going to bring teshuvah as a reality into this world. He has bad descendants. That's what's bad. But it's not the end of the world. There's always hope. If there's life, there's hope. Yehuda brings the bad descendants with the possibility of teshuvah. When she looked at Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, she didn't see that teshuvah. She just saw these terrible people who are going to emerge. I can't give thanks. It's too much of a mixed bag for me to give thanks. With Yehuda, I see he has Rishon were descendants. But no one's absolutely bad. He did something bad, he still got a chance, right? So she gave thanks then. The bad descendants didn't shake her up as much when she saw the possibility of teshuvah. All right, let's stop here, and maybe we'll continue. I think maybe we'll continue on this next time. Well, I'm not so naive as to think you'll keep your sheets, even though I say keep your sheets. All right, would somebody please be in charge of keeping the sheets until next week?
I dropped this.
I dropped this. Okay. Yeah, here.